So again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We wanted to just go over back to school tips and strategies to really help all the kids have a smooth transition back to the school. I know that some kids that we've been seeing in the center have already started to have some big emotions. So again, we just wanted to help all of you, help you understand your child. So hopefully all the information that we can provide you today will be helpful and useful, especially during this hard transition time.
Sí, claro, porque el regreso a clase es algo complicado, ¿no? Después de tener una rutina donde básicamente era descansar. Entonces, vamos a hablar de esto, que es un tema realmente muy interesante, dar estrategias y beneficiarlos a ustedes para que la transición en el regreso a clase sea un poquito más llevadera y un poquito más sencilla para ustedes y también para sus hijos.
So if you haven't heard of Brain Balance, we are in San Diego County. We have pretty soon 3 locations. We have one in San Diego, Carmel Mountain, and then one in Chula Vista, and the third one opening very soon in Encinitas. So we'll be able to give you a little tour of what the San Diego and Chula Vista centers look like. So just a little bit about me, a little background. So I am Angie. I'm the program director here with Brain Balance of San Diego and Chula Vista. I have my degree in exercise science. I've always been fascinated with the connections between that brain and the body and just how we go ahead and take everything into perspective. And so when I found Brain Balance, I mean, it was just the perfect fit. I do have a background in working with physical therapists, but again, just working with the children and the families here at Brain Balance is what I love to do. So that's a little bit about me.
Buenas tardes nuevamente, mi nombre es Adam Flores, yo soy un Sensory Motor Coach aquí en Chula Vista, básicamente, aunque apoyo bastante en la locación de San Diego. Yo soy psicólogo como profesionista y algo que realmente me apasionó mucho de Brain Balance es que integra mucho la parte mental, la parte física, que siempre va de la mano. Entonces, aplicamos mucho de la parte psicológica con los estudiantes, nos ayuda a entender bastante cuál es la situación por la que están pasando ellos para nosotros poder generar realmente las mejores estrategias para ellos. Entonces, la mezcla perfecta entre mente y cuerpo, ¿no?
Yes. So again, for those of you who haven't heard of Brain Balance, we are a non-medical holistic approach, multisensory, multimodal approach to really helping kids get to the root cause of why it is that we're seeing a lot of these challenges and symptoms, whether it's big emotional outbursts, whether it's anxiety, depression, or some of the more common ones like focus and attention, hyperactivity. All of those are different symptoms. And so what we do is really get to the root cause of that, which is we're going to be diving deeper into that, but it's all about the connections that are not happening in the brain. So we'll be able to give you a little bit of more information, more details on that, as well as tips and strategies to really help, whether it's your child or someone you know, or maybe it's you that's struggling through some of those challenges.
Sí, bueno, muy general, lo que es Brain Balance es entender que es un programa muy específico, es muy personalizado. Lo que hacemos nosotros aquí es realmente pues respetar que cada cerebro es diferente y procesa, aprende y tiene sus propias dificultades. Entonces vamos a ayudar bastante a que las personas realmente mejoren en muchas de las habilidades que son necesarias en la vida diaria. Entonces, nuestro enfoque siempre va a ser a través de hacerlo de una forma respetuosa, holística, sin ser medicada y sin importar realmente si tienen un diagnóstico.
Oh, there it is in Spanish. So now to give you a little bit of that, the tour time, or just to let you give you an understanding of what the center looks like. This is the San Diego Center. We do have here what it looks like inside. So as soon as you enter, you have that lobby, someone greets you. We are doing temperature checks, and we will sanitize our hands as well, just to stay as clean and healthy as possible. And then to the right, we have all of the cubbies, again, to keep all the different rooms safe and clean. We do ask everyone to take their shoes off. And then when you go through the hallway, we have 4 different sensory motor and cognitive rooms where we have a lot of different physical activities happening all at once, which we'll go over as well. And so this just gives you a little bit of that view of what the center looks like. So this would be the San Diego Center. And then we have our Chula Vista Center as well, which is right on F and 3rd Street, right in the heart of downtown Chula Vista. So again, you're greeted by someone at the front desk. We all take off our shoes just to make sure, again, everything stays disinfected or as clean as possible. We have Adam there, our coach, joining us today. And then as you go through the hallway, we have 3 different rooms in which we work with students in. So slightly different, but still the very same concepts. And again, this is our lobby. So to get started with some of the information that we wanted to share. So just like I was saying, a lot of the challenges that we're seeing in school, whether it's motivation, again, depression, not turning in homework, maybe a lot of big emotional outbursts, or maybe it's in the morning when they're getting ready for school. A lot of those big emotions can happen. But again, a lot of that is communication that an individual is trying to communicate when they don't have those verbal skills. So what's happening is all of that is language, and all of that is information that we gather so that we can get to the root cause of why it is that these challenges are happening. So this is just a little information as to why it is that we can have this disconnect in the brain. It all starts with foundation development, which starts with primitive reflexes, how we're able to process all of the information coming in through all of our different senses, how it is that we're responding to that input, that information driving, the brain and the connections. How is it that we are responding to that? And of course, we do that through fine gross motor skills, the visual system, auditory, and then again, processing. How is it that we're processing all of that coming in? So all the different areas of the brain need to be communicating, working together, firing, so that we can really drive those connections in the brain and really be able to grow and learn.
Sí, justamente como dices, Angie, creo que cuando hay algún problema nos centramos básicamente en los problemas o en los síntomas que son muy visibles, ¿no? Cuando alguien no está teniendo la atención adecuada o tiene una conducta inadecuada, esos son síntomas que nos están reflejando realmente que hay algo que está sucediendo en el cerebro, ¿no? Y por eso realmente lo que hacemos aquí en Brain Balance es ir directamente a la raíz del problema, que es trabajar desde esto que mencionas, que son nuestros reflejos primitivos, la forma en que procesamos información, la forma en que realmente procesamos esto que está sucediendo alrededor de nosotros a través de los sentidos. Entonces, cuando atacamos específicamente síntomas únicamente, muchas veces no podemos realmente mejorar en ciertas cosas, aunque nos pudiera beneficiar, pero no hay nada mejor como atacar el problema desde la raíz, ¿no? Entonces, es algo que nosotros hacemos aquí en Brain Balance.
That is a very good point. No matter how much you work on those symptoms, if you just don't have the foundation to be able to make those connections, it doesn't matter how many tools you provide the individual. It's just going to be really hard to be able to actually act on those different skills and tools. So I just wanted to take a few seconds here. What are some of the challenges that you're all facing, whether it's with your child, someone you know, another student, if it's yourself that's struggling? What are some of those challenges that you're seeing, especially with this back to school transition? If you can put that in the chat.
Sí, hagan esa pregunta, reflexionen sobre realmente cuáles son los desafíos o los retos en los que se están presentando actualmente en el regreso a clases, ¿no? Es importante hacer esta pregunta para también aclarar sus dudas.
Anyone want to share things they're seeing? Thank you for putting in the registration as well, your questions. Hopefully we can go ahead and answer that. But some of the challenges that we saw were just big emotions, challenges with homework time, or just refusing to go to school. So again, those are all different challenges that behavior-wise, they're trying to tell us something, so we can dive deeper into that. But we'll keep going here. So who does Brain Balance help? So we help really anyone who is struggling, from kids to teens to adults, because even if we were struggling as kids, we still continue to see those challenges as adults. So we do work with everyone, starting with age, with 4 years old, all the way up to adults. We have someone, or we have an adult 70-year-old woman who also went through the program. And even at that age, I mean, we all continue to struggle. So again, we want to really help all of the individuals who are struggling, by really making sure that we're individualizing their needs. And so we do that by working with anyone who is either diagnosed or not, to really build and individualize a program just for them, so that we can really tackle those challenges, whether it's diagnosed like ADHD, dyslexia, learning disabilities, or if it's something that's not diagnosed, but it's still really challenging for them to be able to learn in the classroom, just like, you know, attention, focus, having meltdowns. Maybe they have sensory sensitivities, or maybe they're just not able to really communicate. But regardless, diagnosis or not, those are all symptoms that we try to really get to the root cause of.
Sí, es importante mencionar en esto, en el trabajo que nosotros hacemos, Angie, que no hay una edad realmente para nosotros poder desarrollar este cerebro que es tan fantástico, ¿no? Que nos permite hacer muchas cosas. Lo que vemos aquí, que es las complicaciones, ¿no? En nuestra vida diaria, como lo puede ser la falta de atención o tener algún tipo de reto en lo académico. Es importante entenderlo, que este comportamiento realmente nos está diciendo algo. No es que el estudiante o la persona no lo quiera hacer, simplemente es que le hace falta realmente desarrollar esa habilidad para poder desempeñarse de mejor manera, ¿no? Entonces, es importante entender esta parte, que nosotros no necesitamos tener un diagnóstico, ni tampoco lo hacemos, simplemente trabajamos desde un aspecto muy integral para ayudar a que esas conexiones en el cerebro realmente se generen y nos permita lograr el dominio sobre las habilidades que nos permiten, pues, vivir día con día, ¿no?
Mm-hmm. So how did Brain Balance come about? The program is actually based on more than 60 different research papers. Some of the ones that we do have and that we like to talk about and discuss, because these are the ones that are mostly seen with a lot of students, is the research with Harvard. We also did partner with Cambridge Brain Sciences to really look at the cognitive tasks. We also have partnered with UCSF to look and get the most up-to-date technology to, again, be able to really help on all the different processing and all the different areas of development. But then overall, just mental health has also really helped a lot of the students that have gone through our program. So these are all different research papers that have been done on our program, and they have all seen significant increase and significant changes in a lot of these different areas, whether it's the focus or the different cognitive tasks with memory, inhibition, spatial memory, and then just overall mental health, being able to feel better, be more confident. So again, all of these different studies have supported what the Brain Balance program does, which is, again, building those connections in the brain so that they're able to better do a lot of these day-to-day tasks, like Adam said. So whether it's feeling confident and being able to just feel more, feel better, feel happier in your own body, or even, again, day-to-day tasks with cognitive tasks as well.
Sí, creo que la parte más importante del programa es que realmente nuestro programa está creado en base a mucha investigación que se ha hecho, ¿no? Entonces, hay una ciencia detrás de todo esto que hacemos, y es importante que estos datos que tomamos nos ayudan el hecho de poder mejorar y que lo que estamos aplicando realmente tiene un sustento científico, no es solamente una creencia que nosotros tenemos, ¿no? Hay datos, hay estadísticas que nos permiten ver que sí hay una mejoría en la cognición, en la mente, en el cerebro de los estudiantes con los que hemos trabajado, ¿no? Desde el bienestar que obtienen hasta las habilidades como son mejorar en prestar atención, ¿no? En niños que sufren de un déficit de atención o personas que tienen un déficit de atención. Entonces, va a haber muchas áreas que se pueden mejorar, y cada una de esas áreas realmente está siendo investigada y que nos permite realmente seguir avanzando en el trabajo.
And there's always continued research going on as well. So what is learning? What does it actually mean? And how does the brain impact the learning as we transition back to school? I would like to take some time to ask in the chat, what is learning? ¿Qué es poder aprender? What does it mean? A lot of times it can be it's such a simple word, but yet putting it into context, putting it into definition can be challenging. But what is it? What does everyone in the audience think it is? Learning. So learning is actually being able to take in information from your surroundings, taking in whether it's through all of the different senses, whether it's through experience, studying, it's being able to take all of that information and being able to literally connect different neurons or connections in the brain so that you can retain that information and then utilize that when it's necessary. So it's the physical process in which you gain new information and you build new connections, new neurons in the brain.
El aprendizaje básicamente se da desde que nosotros nacemos, o sea, todo el tiempo estamos adquiriendo conocimiento de cosas, ¿no? Desde nosotros involucrar lo que son nuestros sentidos, ¿no? Cuando somos bebitos, aprendemos a través de eso y es importante entender que no es necesariamente apegado a la inteligencia, el aprender es algo que hacemos cotidianamente, ¿no? Entonces, la situación aquí es que cuando ellos regresan a clase, el aprendizaje está centrado en que alguien más me va a enseñar algo y a veces dejamos de utilizar nuestros sentidos al full, como dicen, para realmente adquirir la habilidad de poder experimentar algo y que puedo utilizar en el futuro, ¿no? Es como el lenguaje, ¿no? El lenguaje tarda mucho en realmente desarrollarse en el cerebro porque hay una repetición y repetición hasta que logramos maestría y pues yo puedo hablar español y tú puedes hablar inglés y viceversa, ¿no? Así es como se da el aprendizaje.
Yeah, and so with learning, it's literally being in the classroom and getting new information, having new knowledge to really build those that learning, whether it's reading, vocabulary, everything that we're taking in is part of the learning process. And so what happens when you do have those challenges, when you're not able to focus, when you're not able to process all the information, when you're too focused on how, different textures feel on your body, or maybe you're too nervous to be able to ask questions, and so you start to fall behind, what happens is that we start to see a lot of these challenges. So these are some of the more common learning challenges. Of course, the number one being attention and focus. But there are other, whether diagnosed or not, other challenges that can happen as a result of a lack in attention and focus as well. Whether it's, reading and comprehension, maybe it's anxiety, but you also do have, the dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, which can be either the reversing of letters, difficulty with math, difficulty with writing, or even more of the gross and fine motor coordination pieces. But overall, these are going to be some of the more common ones. And a lot of the time they can be comorbid, right? Which means that you can have more than one diagnosis or more than one of these challenges in the learning setting, whether it's at home or in the classroom.
Sí, nuevamente es repetir, ¿no? Esto que nosotros vemos aquí, estos retos comunes dentro del aprendizaje, simplemente son un síntoma de que algo está sucediendo en el cerebro. Y es importante y me gustaría hablar sobre la ansiedad, ¿no? Que es un tema que se da como más común en los niños, el estrés que viven por tener que cumplir con todas las tareas o todas las obligaciones que se tienen, ¿no? Y pensamos que a veces un niño no puede pasar por este tipo de cosas y es importante normalizar que un niño o un adulto puede pasar por las mismas cosas, ¿no? Entonces, estos van a ser simplemente síntomas de algo que está sucediendo que puede ser mucho más grande y que hay que realmente ver desde el inicio, ¿no? O trabajar desde ahí, ¿no? Desde las bases.
And this could be a good reason why kids are oftentimes asking for a lot of different breaks, or maybe they're task avoiders. Maybe every time you try to introduce, homework, or in the classroom when they're trying to, have the teacher go over different lessons, they prefer to just walk away. It's because they have these challenges and it's just so hard. It's just so tiring as well to be able to put all that focus into, the information coming in. So that's why you can see some of those behaviors as well, whether it's task avoidance or just asking for excessive breaks, whether it's during school time or at home during homework time. So just something to keep in mind. So again, these can be just additional things that we can see. These are just some of those signs that we can see, whether in the classroom or at home, whether it's schoolwork being often not being brought home, or maybe they're not turning in their work at school, whether it's, homework time being such a big battle. What should have taken an hour is taking, 5 hours, and is just creating this very negative atmosphere at home because of all of the meltdowns. Or, that can oftentimes cause a lot of students and kids to just shut down completely, whether having meltdowns or just, again, completely falling into depression or anxiety, and just causes a lot of frustration, not just with the students, but with students and families and parents. So this is why I like talking about all of these different topics, because it doesn't just affect one person, it's the whole family that it really becomes challenging for. And so these are some of those things that you can start to see. But regardless, these are just going to be the tip of the iceberg. These are just the symptoms that we see. So we have to get to the root cause of what is actually going on. What is that behavior that they're, or what is that communication that they're trying to tell us?
Sí, y tocas un tema, un punto muy importante, Angie, que cuando hablas de realmente de las obligaciones que cada uno de ellos tiene, a veces es como demasiado para ellos, ¿no? Y esto de evitar hacer las cosas no necesariamente tiene que ver con evitar hacer el trabajo, sino evitar sentirse de esa manera, ¿no? Evitar el estrés, evitar la ansiedad, evitar sentirse nervioso o señalado como no sabes, ¿no? Entonces, realmente tenemos que entender un poquito o ir un poquito más a fondo sin señalarlo como algo negativo, sino tratar de entenderlo, ¿no? Porque él está viviendo un síntoma que quiere evitar, que no le hace sentir bien, y a veces no tenemos las formas, no tenemos las palabras para poder comunicar eso, ¿no? Y es muy difícil cuando son niños, si es difícil para un adulto, para un niño es difícil cuando está aprendiendo realmente a reconocer lo que se está sintiendo, sus emociones. Entonces tocas un tema que realmente es muy interesante y es muy importante tomar en cuenta.
So someone did mention in the chat too that their child just has such a hard time going to sleep. That can also be due to whether it's anxiety or just not knowing what's going to happen at school. It can be due to different fears that they have, whether it's just different challenges, or even just not knowing what is going to happen at school. What are they going to have to learn? How challenging is it going to be? So all of that is still tied to those learning challenges as well. So these are just additional things that we talked about. So, having that task avoider, or again, that confidence really start to decrease because they feel like everything they try is just not good enough. And so you start to see that slide in the different grades. And again, just being exhausted at the end of the day. So again, these are just some of those challenges that we can see. And so again, what does research tell us? I mean, it tells us that that a lot of students are really struggling. So the more of those challenges that we have, the more that there's a disconnect in between the different regions of the brain, whether it's the left and right brain or the different regions on the same side of the brain. But 14 to 30% of the students in the classrooms are struggling and need additional support. And those are just the 30% that had visible challenges. What about those kids that are maybe not being challenged enough, or maybe that's not the correct language, but the students that are falling, within the cracks, the students that are just not necessarily qualifying for enough to be able to have those different challenges or diagnoses. So that this is just the students that we know are struggling with, but still they need that additional support to really be able to learn in the classroom. And so all of that is still tied to those networks and the different connections that we have, again, between the whole entire brain.
Sí, pues las estadísticas realmente nos dicen que hay un aumento en la actualidad en los niños cuando están batallando con la escuela, ¿no? Entonces siempre hay un apoyo adicional que necesitamos, ¿no? Pero todo nos lleva realmente a que tiene que ver con el cerebro, con las conexiones que se están realizando en el cerebro que muchas veces no fueron, pues por así decirlo, plantadas en la cabeza y regadas, ¿no? Que es algo que es a través de ejercitar de diferentes maneras, ¿no? Entonces, hay una desconexión que realmente tiene que ser reconectada nuevamente, ¿no? Y por eso es importante entenderlo como todo está conectado, el cerebro con el cuerpo, con la atención, con cosas, síntomas que realmente a veces no nos gustaría que estuvieran ahí, pero está pasando porque hay una desconexión entre las áreas del cerebro que están encargadas de poder desempeñar ese trabajo, ¿no? O esa conducta.
So everything is tied together. There's not one system in the brain or the body that works in isolation. So again, that's why it is that we need to involve all the different senses along with motor skills, cognitive tasks to be able to build those connections, which we'll go over in more detail. But again, the brain is just so important in really making sure that we're able to take in, process, retain all of that information so that we can learn in the classroom, remember all the different steps, being able to recall. So having that long and short-term memory, but again, it all has to do with those connections in the brain.
Sí, en esto el déficit de atención, tomando lo que dice aquí, es el déficit de atención está ligado a que hay una baja conectividad en el cerebro, ¿no? Entonces, no naces necesariamente con un déficit de atención, sino es algo que realmente se deja de enseñar y realmente desarrollar, ¿no? O vaya, si lo digo como un entrenamiento que hacemos todos los días, ¿no? Porque al final de cuentas, toda la repetición de forma positiva va a llevar a poder dominar algo, ¿no? Y es lo que necesita el cerebro. Necesita repetir, repetir, repetir hasta que domine una habilidad.
Yes, that is a very good point. We are not born with the ability to focus, the ability to have and utilize executive function skills, with whether it's being able to follow multi-step instructions, time management. We have to be able to learn that and use it. It's not something that we just learn. So that is also tied to a lot of these challenges that we have. So good point there. So stronger brain connections equals stronger processing skills. So the more that we are able to really build those connections, the more and the quicker that we'll be able to process that.
Sí, claro. Entre más trabajamos con estas conexiones cerebrales, va a significar que las habilidades realmente también van a mejorar, ¿no? Entonces, no podemos dejar a un lado que tenemos que entrenar, ejercitar ese cerebro de la mejor manera para que entonces esas habilidades se vean beneficiadas.
So how do we do that? I mean, how do we build connections in the brain? So I wanted to just take a little pause here to ask everyone in the audience as well. Do you know what neuroplasticity is? What does it mean?
¿Qué es la neuroplasticidad?
So break that down, neuro and plasticity. So it's something that we've heard, but what does it really mean? And so this is why it is that we're able to build those new connections in the brain as well, right? So talking back to working with students starting at age 4 all the way up to adults, it's because of this neuroplasticity that allows us to do that. So neuroplasticity literally means that we're able to change the brain as we adapt to new experiences. And again, just processing all of that new gained knowledge, experience, stimulation that allows us to change, grow the brain.
Sí, básicamente lo que es la neuroplasticidad es la habilidad que tiene el cerebro para poder cambiar, para poder adaptarse, para poder realmente, pues ser como una plastilina que podemos moldear, ¿no? A mí me gusta poner el ejemplo de dentro de la neuroplasticidad, es como un músculo que no utilizas, ¿no? O sea, va a debilitarse, ¿no? Pero el día que lo quieras usar para levantar algo, costará trabajo. ¿Qué tendrás que hacer? Pues volver a mover ese músculo, ¿no? No lo dejas ahí y dices, bueno, ya no sirve, ¿no? Lo ejercitas para poder realmente lograr nuevamente la fuerza, el uso que tiene que tener, ¿no? Entonces el cerebro necesita eso, necesitamos entender que el cerebro siempre puede ser trabajado, entrenado, siempre puede aprender, no importa la edad. Y esa es lo que nos dice la neuroplasticidad, ¿no? Que siempre va a poder cambiar y mejorar
A cualquier edad.
a cualquier edad.
So at any age, we're able to grow the brain. So as long as you continue to challenge it, it will grow in terms of connections. So again, what are some of those tips and strategies that we can utilize during this transition? So this is really where I would really like to personalize it, right? But if there's any additional questions that you have from these next few slides, please feel free to put that in the chat. But the most important thing to really remember is that basic needs are needed. So good sleep, good nutrition, and good exercise are gonna be essential to really making sure that we have that blood flowing, the oxygen flowing to the brain. We're ready to be able to receive all the information that we will be getting in the classroom or even at home as, you know, parents help their children through the different lessons. Nutrition is also just as equally important, making sure that we have all of the nutrients that we need, again, to be able to sit through the classroom, whether it's an hour or the whole entire day, or sitting at home, you know, for an hour, hour and a half doing homework. We need that proper nutrition, not just in the meals of the day, but also in the snacks, right? So we have to make sure that we're looking at, you know, if there's any ingredients that cause any inflammation in our bodies, that can also be tied to some of these behaviors that we see, whether it's brain fog or fatigue. So again, just something to keep in mind. And then the most important one, I think, as well, is limiting that screen time, because the more that kids are on screen time, the less physically active they are. So the less screen time they are, the more they have that ability and that creativity to, you know, get to see what it is that they want to do, what do they like to do, and it allows them to get creative, and it allows them that space to really know how to utilize their time. So less screen time, and then more exercise, better nutrition, and of course, good quality sleep.
Sí, creo que los hábitos saludables realmente nos van a beneficiar en mucho, ¿no? El cerebro necesita de oxígeno, justamente como lo dices, ¿no? Es el alimento del cerebro. ¿Y cómo obtenemos oxígeno? Pues es a través de una buena nutrición, a través de un buen ejercicio, a través de descansar lo suficiente, ¿no? Que nos permite que el cerebro esté más relajado, menos estresado, y eso beneficia mucho en el aprendizaje, ¿no? Y algo que que mencionas ahorita, Angie, es que el tiempo de pantalla, ¿no? El tiempo de pantalla creo que te quita mucho tiempo en estas otras sugerencias que nosotros damos, pero también te quita la habilidad de poder contactar con otros sentidos, ¿no? O sea, cuando estás en pantalla utilizas simplemente tus ojos, pero no estás utilizando ni un otro sentido, ¿no? Quizás el auditivo, pero a veces estamos tan metidos en esa pantalla que no estamos oliendo, que no estamos realmente siendo conscientes de lo que estamos tocando. Y eso es también un alimento increíble para el cerebro.
Mm-hmm. Limit screen time. And so these are some other things that we can also continue to practice at home. If your child has any fears, any anxiety, and they really are driven by routine and schedule, talk with the teacher to see if they can give the, next week's schedule or homework or, assignments, tests that you can be aware of and talk to your child about so that they can feel ready and that they know that that's coming up. But also teach them independence and problem solving skills, right? I mean, at home, it can be really challenging when you see them struggling and you just want to jump in and help, but just stepping back and allowing them to really problem solve different situations, whether it is they're frustrated at a homework problem, teaching them how to problem solve, but then be independent. Hey, what's something that you think we can try next time? Or hey, what's something that we can do differently? Or how about, we try some breathing? So again, just giving them those tools and allowing them to have that say, so that again, we're teaching them how to be able to analyze a situation and get past that. Again, practicing that mindfulness tied to that breathing, but then of course, number one, really engaging all the different senses, whether they're doing homework or doing projects. I always recommend all of our families being in the kitchen because there's a lot of different senses, but they're also using a lot of fine motor skill, coordination, hand-eye coordination. So even just getting them involved in the kitchen can help with building new connections. But in terms of school and work, put on a diffuser while they're, studying or, getting ready for their homework time. If they need breaks, have them take physical breaks. Make sure that they're not just on screen time or on their phone during those breaks. Allow them to get up and really move their body, because again, that will only help with that oxygen to the brain and the body as well. So these are just some of those tips that we have found really helpful with students.
Sí, y hace ratito hacían una pregunta, ¿no? Que se le complica dormir a tu hijo, ¿no? Yo diría que una de las cosas que pueden empezar a intentar es realmente hablar sobre una estructura, tener un horario, una rutina y también llevar la mente a la calma en esas últimas horas de la noche, ¿no? Porque a veces el tiempo de pantalla hablando nos hace que realmente el cerebro esté muy estimulado de forma visual, entonces activa. Entonces es importante que practicar mindfulness, practicar la respiración, practicar la atención plena nos ayude a realmente enseñarle al cerebro la vuelta a la calma, que es empezar a relajarse para ir a la cama. Entonces algo que pueden practicar antes de dormir o ya en ese momento es técnicas de mindfulness, técnicas de respiración.
Yeah, so again, with structure and routine, you can work with the teacher to give things to you ahead of time so you can talk with your child, get organized, whether it's using charts. I love charts because you can do words so that it's more appropriate if you have a teenager, or you can do visuals, right? You can put pictures of a backpack to remember to look in their backpack for their homework, or things that they have to do once they get home from school. So just considering that whenever you're giving your child verbal instructions, maybe pairing it with verbal and visual instructions as well. Teaching them time management, I always think it's really helpful having whether it's a family calendar so that they know again what's coming up. They can put all their different tests or projects on the calendar, but that also helps with time management and independence. So again, just having all of that in place so that they feel that they also have that autonomy as well. And also rewards for completed homework or initiating different tasks. I know this was a question that was put on in the chat as well. Do rewards help? They certainly can help. Eventually, you want to be able to phase that out. So instead of doing something daily or after every homework topic or subject, being able to stretch that out to, at the end of the week. And then you eventually just want that internal intrinsic motivation. But yes, rewards can be really helpful, especially initially when things are just really challenging.
Sí, bueno, estructura y rutina es algo que todos necesitamos, ¿no? No importa la edad, siempre necesitamos realmente tener una buena organización en las cosas. Y yo creo que algo visual funciona bastante porque también enseña mucho la responsabilidad y el orden de las cosas, ¿no? Es empezar a enseñar que hay un horario para hacer las cosas y eventualmente ellos entenderán que hay una responsabilidad que depende de ellos, ¿no? Y bueno, algo que mencionas ahorita, ¿no? Que es el premiarlos de forma inmediata, también es algo que ayuda, pero es mejor cuando se prolonga ese premio, porque entonces los enseña a ser pacientes, los enseña a que no obtienes algo tan inmediato y trabajamos en una motivación que va más orientada a lograr algo y no por el premio, ¿no? No porque me van a dar una medalla o porque me van a dar dinero o porque lo que sea, sino algo que tiene que ver más con la satisfacción de lograr las cosas.
Very true. So with those brain breaks, these are some, again, more detailed brain breaks. Like I said, I always recommend doing a physical activity as opposed to, going on screen time. So just taking some time away from whatever you're focusing on. A lot of times, just taking a break from that and then coming back with fresh eyes can just help you get through the rest of the homework, which is really important. Again, just helping them not get fatigued, not get too distracted. So whether it's being able to have them go into a very specific space or a space with no distractions can be really helpful as well. And of course, we want to reduce the stress and frustration. So just allowing them and reminding them the different tools that they can do during those frustrated moments. And then again, we have different attention spans at different ages. So remember, you can't ask a 6-year-old to have a 45-minute attention span because they're just not quite there yet. So giving them those breaks, of course, we can ask of that, of a middle and high schooler. But again, just being cognizant of that. When are they needing their breaks? Are they needing their breaks because they're really fatigued, or do they need a water break? Do they need a snack? So just keeping all of those different things in mind.
Yo creo que es bien importante preguntar, ¿no? Porque empiezas a reconocer también qué es lo que necesitas, ¿no? Como decías, a lo mejor necesitan tomar agua, pero como ellos no saben cómo expresar su necesidad, bueno, el preguntar y dar opciones ayudaría bastante, ¿no? Porque lo que estamos buscando al tomar descansos es que se reduzca realmente el estrés y la frustración por querer hacer las cosas ya y terminar algo que quizá para ellos no es tan agradable, ¿no? Y vuelvo a decir, lo no agradable para ellos es sentirse de esa manera, no es la actividad necesariamente, porque aprender siempre es algo que va a ayudar o le va a gustar a todos, ¿no?
Descansos mentales. So these are just additional brain breaks. So mindful minute, whether it's practicing breathing, practicing some yoga. You can do things as easy as piano fingers, again, something physical, whether it's jumping jacks, cross crawls, which is tapping the opposite, the hand to the opposite knee, high knees, increasing that heart rate, push-ups, sit-ups, one-leg stands, again, physical. And you can even incorporate some of the sensory pieces while doing some of these physical activities. So whether it's putting a diffuser, having a metronome, having some music in the background, all of that is going to be helpful for that, the brain break. And they don't have to be, really long. You can set a timer for 1, 3, or 5 minutes, just depending on the level of fatigue. But something as quick as 1 minute can just really help refocus your energy and attention.
Sí, pues aquí hay diferentes opciones, ¿no? Siempre ser creativos ayuda bastante, sacarlos de esta burbuja que quizá genera este estrés va a ayudar mucho a que realmente la mente descanse y sea mucho más fácil poder adquirir el aprendizaje o poder realmente terminar la tarea que se está realizando, ¿no?
And so we will be giving you some of this information tomorrow when I send out the email as well. So if you have tried a lot of these things, or if you're going to try them and then after some time you see that it's still not helping the situation, then maybe it's time to really look deeper, dive deeper, get more information as to what's causing a lot of these challenges. So we do have our assessment. We have it, and that assessment really does, again, help us get to the root cause. How are they processing certain information, whether it's visual information, auditory? How are they aware of their surroundings? Maybe their vestibular system is not as strong. How is their synchronization or rhythm and timing? How about their core, which is so important for foundation and development? So it allows us to really get an insight as to where those strengths and challenges are and why it is that we're seeing what we're seeing, regardless of trying all these different tools that we're providing you today.
Sí, pues siempre estamos dispuestos a realmente ayudar de diferentes maneras, ¿no? Aquí, como mencionas, Angie, nosotros vamos directamente a la raíz del problema, ¿no? Cuando entendemos que hay síntomas que muchas veces no están siendo resueltos por las cosas que estamos intentando en casa, bueno, también eso va a aumentar estrés en los padres, en la gente que rodea, ¿no? Entonces, ir directamente al problema de la raíz realmente también te hace a ti relajarte y también realmente disfrutar de otras maneras, ¿no? Cada hemisferio del cerebro va a tener pues una función y algunos somos mayor dominantes en el lado izquierdo y en el derecho, pero eso es algo que nosotros entendemos desde que hacemos la evaluación para poder realmente determinar cuál es el programa adecuado para cada uno de los estudiantes.
Yeah, we have left and right brains, very opposite functions, but very complementary to each other. So you need both sides of the brain to really communicate at the same maturity level so that we can have more appropriate behaviors and just more appropriate responses. So ultimately, again, it comes back to really building those connections in the brain through the different skills and activities and tasks that we have the students do. So sometimes when we don't have that connection, or we have a lack or disconnect between different regions of the brain, that's when we start to really see those challenging signs, whether it's, again, with the learning or the focus, the time management, organization. All of those skills are coming from a lack of connectivity, a disconnect between the regions. And so that's when we start to see that disbalance, that imbalance, and that's really where, again, we want to intervene and really help the situation.
El equilibrio lo es todo. Hay que equilibrar esos dos hemisferios y hacer que trabajen de la mano, ¿no? Y es importante que nuevamente entender que este desequilibrio impacta en muchas áreas de nuestra vida, ¿no? Entonces, estos son algunos de los indicadores, tómenlos en cuenta para saber realmente cómo abordar lo que están presentando, ¿no? Vuelvo a repetir, no es que el estudiante no quiera, es que muchas veces no puede o no sabe cómo hacerlo.
And so again, it all starts with foundation, with development. So these are all the different areas that we test in the assessment, starting with primitive reflexes, so important in development, but we need them to be inhibited. So again, we start at the foundation, because no matter how much we give the students the tools that they need, if they don't have the ability to receive that information and utilize it, then there's just no way that they're going to be able to continue to close that gap and see that decrease in those challenges. We need to start at the root and build from the bottom up to give them that ability, that control to take on those different skills.
Justamente como lo es la pirámide, ¿no? Siempre hay una parte que es mucho más fuerte, que son nuestros cimientos, y en este desarrollo del ser humano, del niño, del cerebro, pues necesitamos realmente dominar ciertas funciones desde que somos niños, ¿no? Muchas veces tenemos un estudiante que ya tendría que estar leyendo, pero a veces nos hemos saltado alguna de estas áreas y es importante regresar para que entonces cuando lleguemos a ese punto sea mucho más sencillo para él el poder adquirir esta destreza.
So again, these are some of the areas that we look at and we test in the assessment. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about those specific tests, please feel free to contact us, or we will also be contacting you to answer any other questions that you might have more specifically to the assessment. We also do the cognitive test, which, we'll look at 6 different cognitive tasks, and that'll take about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just depending on the child. And then we can have the review of assessment with you as soon as the following day. So, la evaluación toma entre 1:30 y 2 horas, dependiendo de el individual, y podemos tener esa junta para poder ver los resultados hasta el próximo día. Pero hoy, por ser parte de nuestro taller, van a recibir una evaluación, a special. You're going to get an assessment special for attending the webinar today. So we will be giving everyone $50 off the assessment, which is normally $195. So again, these are some of the kiddos that have been and have gone through our program, whether current or graduates. So we're working on all the different areas of the brain. And it's really that multi-sensory approach that really separates us and makes us different from a lot of the other different therapies out there. So again, we want to definitely encourage everyone to connect with us, whether it's via phone call or text, visiting our website. But then we also have, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We have a lot more resources and webinars, recorded webinars that you can find on our YouTube video. And then, of course, if you go onto our website, you can find a lot of different other webinars and blogs. So please feel free to follow us on all of these different platforms. We provide a lot of different resources to our families, but then also if you have any more specific questions regarding your child, please feel free to give us a call back, text us. We really look forward to hearing from you so that we can get the support and the resources that you might need. This is the QR code for our upcoming events. So we have events on back to school anxiety today, but then we have just learning challenges and anxiety coming up August 25th as well. Thank you for the comments on there. Again, I will follow up with the discount in the email, the follow-up email as well. But you can, again, go to our website so you can find additional upcoming events. The next one is going to be the brain and anxiety. So yeah, I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you there as well. We do have an assess-a-thon coming up on August 27th at the Chula Vista location. So if you would like to go ahead and reserve an assessment spot, please feel free to give us a call back. If not, we will reach out to you. So again, I just wanted to thank everyone coming on here. I know that we might have gone a little over, but please feel free to ask us any questions. Unmute yourself. I'm going to stop the recording now, but please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Gracias a todos.